Ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 o'clock, and I'd like to call the February 17th meeting of the Columbia County Planning and Zoning Commission to order. If you'd stand with us, Commissioner Wilder will lead us in the invocation, and Commissioner Caraway will lead us in the pledge.
I would pray with us. Lord, we want to thank you for another beautiful day. Thank you for this little weather we've had today. Thank you for all the many blessings you bestow upon this community. As you look out for our first responders and our as you guide us this evening. All these things.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. Be seated. And if I could remind you to silence your cell phones before the meeting starts. We do have all 5 commissioners tonight for a 100% quorum. Gentlemen, you've had an opportunity to review the minutes from the February 3rd meeting. If there are no changes or amendments to those minutes as they've been submitted, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor? Motion to approve the minutes as submitted passes 5-0. We've also had a chance to review the agenda for tonight. If there are no amendments or additions, I need a motion for approval as submitted.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion to approve the submitted agenda passes 5-0. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to clarify that the Planning Commission is a recommending body to the Columbia County Board of Commissioners. The decisions made on rezoning and variance requests tonight will be forwarded to the Commissioners for final action on March 1st, 2022 in these chambers at 6 p.m. If you wish to address the Board of Commissioners at their meeting, please see Ms. Kara Hardaway, and she will provide you with a request to speak form. We're less formal in these chambers. If you have something you'd like to add to the commentary tonight during our public hearing portion of the meeting, raise your right hand. We'll ask you to come up to the dais and take 3 to 5 minutes to give us your opinion, either for or against this particular issue. And if you do happen to come up, you can use your finger to draw on the screen. We can't do it from up here, but you can do it from there. If you have something you'd like to comment on that's not pertaining to tonight's agenda, but is county business and you'd like to have it on the record, we have an opportunity for you to speak at the very end of the meeting in our public comments section. Raise your hand. We'll ask you to come up, take 3 to 5 minutes, and give us your opinion on whatever the matter is. I'd like to take a moment to notice Commissioner Don Skinner over here. I think he's going to serve as our parliamentarian tonight. He's a former vice chair for planning and zoning. We appreciate you being here tonight, Commissioner. That being said, we'll jump right into our business tonight. The first is presented as information only. Mr. Butler, file MW 220201.
I think this is a minor waiver for 6195 Harlan Grovetown Road. It was approved a couple weeks ago. This is a reduction in the front building setback. This is the location of Harlan Grovetown Road. Current zoning is RA, residential agricultural, is everything around it. And then the aerial view of the property. So the issue that was in place is you can see where the 125 is here. The carport is well in front of that, but it is close enough that a reduction to 112 and 6 inches would make it work from a site standpoint. So staff approved their request by 10% to reduce it down to 112 feet and 6 inches from the 125 setback. And this was approved back on February 7th. Staff report on the minor waiver.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. That's just for information only, so there's no motion or vote necessary on that. Ms. Montgomery, we have preliminary plats for Highland Lake Section 2 and 3. Would you like to do these individually, or would you like to present them both at the same time and then this vote individually?
We probably can do them individually. I think that's fine.
All right.
Less confusing.
Proceed.
This is preliminary plat for Section 2 of Highland Lakes located off William Few Parkway. This is the location of the property on the south side of William Few, currently zoned R2, single-family residential. And the aerial of the site showing the location of Section 2. And this section includes 57 single-family lots with a minimum lot size of 10,012 square feet, which exceeds the minimum 10,000 square feet required in the R2 zoning district. The lots will have setbacks of 55 feet from the center line of the roads and 10 foot from the side and rear property lines. Sidewalks and street trees are required on both sides of the road, and a 50-foot buffer is required at the perimeter of the site, which is shown on the plans. 7.1 acres of open space is provided in this section and will be dedicated to the HOA. Now, the original zoning for this property did include a condition that they were limited to final platting no more than 150 lots prior to completion of the amenity area. The amenity area is under construction, but is not complete at this time. So while the preliminary plat for this phase can be approved, the final plat cannot be approved until that amenity area is complete. And staff is recommending approval of the preliminary plat.
Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any questions for staff? This is not a public hearing. I'll need a motion to approve, to disapprove, or to postpone this first preliminary plat.
Mr. Chairman,
I make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Highland Lake, Section 2 of William Few Parkway.
Do I hear a second?
second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Motion to approve passes 5-0. Ms. Montgomery, Highlands Lake, Section 3.
Yes, sir. This is section 3 of Highland Lakes, same subdivision, so still located off William Few and still zoned R2. This is the location to the south of the section we just saw, section 2, and the aerial of the site. And this section includes 101 single-family lots with a minimum lot size of 10,001 square feet, so just over that 10,000 square foot minimum. Same setbacks, 55 feet from the center line and 10 feet from the side and rear property lines, and we will still have sidewalks and street trees on both sides of the road, and the 50-foot buffer at the perimeter of the site. There's 23 acres of open space in this section that is being dedicated to the HOA that is primarily down here at the southern end of the site. This plat is subject to the same condition as the previous one, so can have preliminary plat approval, but cannot have final plat approval until that amenity area is complete. And staff is recommending approval.
Gentlemen, any questions, staff? This is not a public hearing, so I'll need a motion to approve, to disapprove, or to postpone.
Make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for the Highland Lakes, Section 3 off William Few Parkway.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion to approve passes 5-0. Mr. Butler, individual plat for White Oak Business Park Phase 2.
This is a request for a individual plat on 159.74 acres for 5 lots, currently zoned M2 off Innovation Parkway for White Oak Business Park Phase 2. Shows location of the property. And again, currently zoned M2 as part of White Oak Business Park. So the reason it's coming before y'all, back in 2021, the Development Authority went through the minor plat process for this parent tract here. So divide out this piece here for Amazon, PS5, I think, is that one? Robbie can correct me if I was wrong. But that went through the minor plat process. When it does that, you didn't have a 5-year moratorium on subdivision of the property. Again, 2021 was about a year ago, so we're looking at having to waive that 5-year moratorium. So again, we have 5 new lots on the property ranging from a little less than 7 to a little over 65 acres. You do see the right-of-way that's on here. That is not part of this plat. That is a whole separate plat that's going through a whole nother process. Staff sees no issue with waiving that requirement. We're pretty sure we're going to see more of this out at White Oak. We may have a bet on if you're actually going to, one of these properties will probably get subdivided again in the future. But again, staff recommends approval of the plat.
Gentlemen, any questions, staff? This is not a public hearing. However, Mr. Bennett, is there anything you'd like to add? All right, thank you, sir. That being said, this is not a public hearing. I need a motion to approve, to disapprove, or to postpone.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the individual plat for White Oak Business Park Phase 2.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Motion to approve passes 5-0. Mr. Butler will stay with you for plan revision, file RZ 220204.
This is a request for a minor revision at 216 South Bel Air Road to shift buildings on property currently zoned S1. It's 4.77 acres. Shows location of the property on the east side of South Bel Air Road. And currently zoned S1. Property was rezoned back in 2018 for a self-storage facility. And an aerial view of the property. And also the existing site. And the plat of the property. It's actually over there. This is the approved development plan for the property itself. A little bit over 70,000 square feet worth of self-storage on the property. The revised plan essentially shifts those internal buildings to basically from going east-west and north-south. Does combine the 2 buildings at the front together. It does reduce the total square footage to about 62,000 square feet. There was, with the original rezoning, there are conditions from that, and also a narrative. So we do have a condition that kind of addresses those original conditions plus, what has been revised within the narrative itself. One of the things that did come up actually today was some discussion about Building B. There is within the narrative, does say that no roll-up doors will face South Bel Air Road. So you do have, basically here would face that, and then in theory, kind of going through there as well. So staff does have a condition to add to that would say any gate facing South Bel Air Road be opaque. Opaque buffer fencing shall be required on the eastern property line facing 218 South Bel Air Road, and hence any proposed gate to the facility off South Bel Air Road. And also landscape plan will be prepared by a licensed landscape architect. In regards to future development map, this is within the Bel Air Professional Corridor. At the time this came through in 2018, staff actually did recommend disapproval of the request, but there were lots of things that really kind of fit in with this corridor. But again, we at the time couldn't really say that we were okay with that. It was approved at that time with some conditions to it. And actually now, it could be argued it definitely meets that Bel Air Professional Corridor with the narrative in place. It will have a very high quality building to it. The use itself is one that doesn't really fit, but again, kind of how the context of it's being done makes it kind of fit in a way. Due to that, staff does recommend approval with the two conditions. Again, we do have the revised one you have to add with this. Again, all rezoning conditions from RZ 18-1201 still apply. The adopted narrative from RZ 18-1201, except for the revised building square footage and site development plan presented with this request, still apply. Then also, again, any gate facing South Bel Air Road will be opaque, and opaque buffer fencing shall be required on the eastern property line facing 218 South Bel Air Road, and connect to any proposed gate to the facility off South Bel Air Road. And lastly, landscape plan will be prepared by a licensed landscape architect. That includes staff recommendation on the minor revision.
Thanks, sir. Gentlemen, any questions, staff? This is not a public hearing, so I'll need a motion to approve with conditions to.
You may have some discussion from the applicant potentially,
You think?
if you want to entertain it.
Is the applicant here? Yes, sir. Is there anything you'd like to add? All right, thank you, sir. Gentlemen, again, we'll need a motion to approve with conditions to disapprove or to postpone.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like a motion to approve with condition. That would be the original condition. And condition 2, any gate facing South Bel Air Road shall be opaque. Opaque buffer fencing shall be required on the eastern property line facing 218 South Bel Air Road and connect to any proposed gate to the facility on South Bel Air Road. The landscape plan shall be prepared by a licensed landscape architect.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? To approve passes 5-0. Ms. Montgomery, we've got file RZ 220202 parts 1 and 2. Would you present those at the same time, and we'll vote on those as one component?
As one item, yes, sir.
Okay.
So this is a request for a rezoning and a revision to an existing PRD, a planned residential development. The primary parcel is 31 acres located off Baker Place Road. That is the one that is the subject of the rezoning request. So this is that parcel. It's technically addressed off Wrightsboro Road, although obviously it does not have Wrightsboro Road frontage. And currently it is zoned RA Residential Agricultural. This is the existing PRD to the northwest, that's Tillery Park, with phase 1 under construction, and the existing planned unit development to the northeast, which is Canterbury Farms. This is the aerial of the site, again, currently undeveloped. And the existing conditions map, with this being a request to rezone to a planned residential development, we are reviewing the conceptual plan in conjunction with this rezoning request. So part of that is the existing conditions map, where we can see where there are some state waters, some environmental features on the site, as well as the existing sewer line and the general slope of the property. And this is a photograph of the existing site. And the overall plan, again, this is the piece that we are considering for the rezoning. The intent is to add this piece into the Tillery Park PRD as Phase 2A. This includes 67 additional lots that would be part of Tillery Park, using standards previously developed or accepted in the Tillery Park PRD. So they are 55 and 70-foot lots with setbacks of 25 feet from the right-of-way, 7.5 feet from the side property lines, and 10 feet from the rear property lines. The 7.5-foot setbacks were previously approved with Tillery Park, so the justification for those has already been established. And the 25-foot front setback is actually an improvement in some ways, does move the houses back a little bit further than the original Tillery Park approval and helps avoid some conflicts with water lines that we see in previous development where they do have to increase those front setbacks in practice. We have carried over several of the proposed conditions from the original rezoning of Chillery Park, just to keep all the development standards consistent. Again, since this is a PRD, we are reviewing the concept plan in conjunction with the rezoning. So we do have 2 access points to this project, one from Chillery Park and one from Canterbury Farms. This does provide the second access point for Chillery Park, which was a requirement of their zoning, and a little bit earlier than originally intended, although we see the connection to Canterbury Farms Parkway remains part of the Chillery Park PRD, so that connection will still happen in the future. The proposed connection to Canterbury Farms at Grenard Street has been reviewed by traffic engineering. They will require analysis of the existing pavement on that road to ensure that it will support the additional traffic load, and they will require updates to the traffic impact study for Chillery Park that could have some additional road or intersection improvement requirements from that. But with those requirements, those will be handled during the preliminary plat, during the development of the construction plans, and with those comments, they didn't have any concerns with this proposal. This actually does provide additional connectivity between these neighborhoods and between Baker Place Road and Chamblin Road, which should benefit both neighborhoods. There is an internal park space on this section, and buffers around the site that totals 14.27 acres of open space, roughly 45% of the site. The other part of this request is the revision to the overall Chillery Park plan to add this piece in and to pick up these 2 lots right on the edge of the original Chillery Park piece. Those 2 lots are in what was originally required to be buffer area because, again, this piece was not part of the development at that time. Since it is now going to be part of the project, if this is approved, they are intending to add those 2 lots there on the original Chillery Park piece. This is a closer-up view of the concept plan. There's 2 loop roads, the park space right here. Just no cul-de-sacs on this section, so no concerns with cul-de-sac length or anything like that. There is an existing stormwater pond kind of behind these lots that does have an access road in this general area. We have discussed with the applicant the need to retain access to that stormwater area, and there's no concerns. We can coordinate that through the development process to ensure that access is maintained. There will be sidewalks on both sides of the roads, as well as street trees in accordance with the PRD requirements. And in terms of phasing, this has been designated Area 2A. It is intended to be under construction sometime between areas 2 and 3 of the original Chillery Park development. In terms of future land use, this property is located in the neighborhood's character area, which is intended for development of single-family neighborhoods. This use is very much in keeping with the intent of this area and with the development of the surrounding properties, and therefore staff is recommending approval with conditions. Again, these are primarily carried forward from the original Chillery Park rezoning, just to maintain consistent standards between the 2 projects. So clarifying that there is not a maximum lot width, clarifying that an architectural review board will sign off on each building permit application, requiring the number of parks to remain the same and be designated by type on the preliminary plat, and referencing connectivity outside of the right-of-way for pedestrian sidewalk or trail connections must be shown on the preliminary plat as well. And that concludes the staff recommendation.
Gentlemen, any questions, staff? I do have one. Could we go back to plat? So let's go back to the previous plat. Okay, so up on Baker Place, we had a pretty significant traffic study that had to be completed. Will these additional lots necessitate any additional traffic study needs?
So yes, one of the comments from traffic engineering is that they will need to update the traffic impact study for the Chillery Park as a whole because of the additional lots and the additional connection point.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, any other questions? Is the applicant here? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Excuse me. They met with DOT today about that.
Okay. Mr. Lawrence, please come forward, give us your name and home address for the record.
Keith Lawrence, 211 Dixon Court, Evans, Georgia, 30809. First, thank you all for your time. We appreciate it. I will tell you, can you flip to the concept plan? Right there. Flip one back one more. right there, that's perfect. We have had calls with the HOA, we had a virtual call with the HOA on this, and, you know, their main concern is the connection traffic that's generated from the neighborhood. We have talked to Steve actually, because one of the suggestions on there was, could we limit it, cut the construction traffic off? I will tell you, the neighborhood, with the exception of the crossing, will be built coming in from Hillary Park. Obviously, it's a connection across that side. So we're going to do everything we can during if it was approved during the construction, to limit any construction traffic. And the other thing that was asked was, is there a way to limit access down Grenard Street, you know, while the houses are being built, so they don't have less impact on that? I told the residents at the same time, I wanted to tell you guys that we're fine with that if Steve Exley and traffic were able to work that out on that side. And then the other thing that got brought up was, could some additional speed humps be installed on there? Again, I know that's Steve Exley, and I told them that if there was something that the county would allow, we would be happy to construct that on that time. So I think their main concern is in the temporary till the main connection is built, that you are going to see additional traffic that you won't see once the connection's done on that side. So we want to do everything we can to minimize construction traffic and traffic that's not needed through there.
So what would a traffic calming measure look like? An RFID gate, or what
Well,
are you thinking?
We would think cones. I mentioned to Steve actually about cones and signage. I'm not cones, barrels and signage. Basically set it up potentially like a road closure during the construction, so that you'd have the 6 to 8 months to build the houses without the connection for day-to-day traffic, while police and ambulance and fire protection could still get through there. It would minimize the potential. I'm not saying somebody couldn't move a barricade, but I think that we would do everything we could. I told the residents we'll instruct our builders to make sure that they're not coming that way, because I think it's important that, you know, for us that, you know, we provide as little impact to the neighbors as we can through that process. That was probably the number one concern that when I talked with them on the phone. They've got some representatives here, I think, we'll talk about that as well, but I just wanted to address that up front.
Any revelations with DOT about the traffic study out on Baker Place, or?
So, not that I'm aware of,
Okay.
but
Right.
like I said, we'll get the traffic study, we'll be updated, make sure nothing, you know, you're talking about 67 lots, so I doubt there'd be a massive impact, but you never know when the thresholds, because they do run numbers and everything.
Okay.
But, you know, we've got local builders, you know, sidewalks on both sides. It's going to carry through the architecture. You know, Jason and them have done a great job painting the narrative for you guys on what they're doing in Hillary Park on that side, so that we intend that it's going to be the same, if not better quality than what we currently have.
Gentlemen, any questions, Mr. Lawrence? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak either for or against this particular rezoning? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward and give us your name and home address. Al Dempsey's the only mean one. All the rest of us are pretty nice, so.
Okay. My name's Michelle Ray. I live at 310 Grenard Street. I'm here representing our neighborhood, the Wicklow section of Canterbury Farms. First and foremost, we are concerned about the increase of traffic on our residential street. More traffic poses a larger risk to the safety of our children and pedestrians. This traffic will also affect the overall feel and ambiance of our neighborhood, which happens to be a major point of why many of us purchased our homes to begin with. We wanted our children to have a safe place to play and a quiet place for us to enjoy our families. Providing an outlet for over 200 homes and all of those affiliated with the construction of those homes puts our community at risk to lose the very things that drew us to Wicklow. Our neighborhood mailboxes are located on Grenard Street. All residents of our neighborhood access the street on a daily basis by car or by foot. It is also an entry point to 2 of our green spaces, an area where our children are frequently seen playing tag, Nerf gun wars, hide and seek, riding bikes, and playing ball. We are a community of many school-aged children. Children who at times don't pay attention to their surroundings. Children who run across the street chasing balls and one another. As drivers, parents, and members of the community, We pay attention when they at times do not. Because we are invested in this community, it's an easy thing to do. These are our children. I cannot trust that those driving through our neighborhood will provide the same care. This extension puts our children in danger. The residents of Wicklow are finally seeing the end phases of our section's construction. Construction that has been met with concrete, gravel, sod, delivery trucks, and caravans of workers' vehicles driving wildly through our streets, trash and debris, and even damage to personal property. We fear that an extension of Grenard Street into Tillery Park is going to be an invitation for more of the same. We do not wish to live in a construction zone for the next 2 years until Canterbury Farms Parkway is constructed. Increased traffic will result in quicker deterioration of our streets. I question if the roadways are even wide enough to support this type of traffic. There are homeowners who frequently park on the sides of the streets, who have company who use the streets for parking as well. This increases the risk of traffic accidents and damage to personal property. In reading the proposal's concept plan, it appears that the commission requires 2 entry-exit points for development to take place. While this extension into our neighborhood satisfies that need for the developer, it does so at a cost to the residents of our neighborhood. It's clear that this county is full of bright and innovative minds. Is there not a better solution that fulfills this need without affecting our community so negatively? Our neighbors have no issue with the buildings of more homes. Growth and development are wonderful things for all of us. Our issue is with using our neighborhood as a thoroughway and an easy solution for the developer to get these homes built as soon as possible and without having to complete the construction on Canterbury Farms Parkway. As a community, we are struggling to understand the true need for a connection to Grenard Street to Tillery Park. We had a Zoom meeting with Keith Lawrence last week. Many times it was said, this may not be as bad as you think it'll be. The reality is that it very well could be as bad or even worse. These 200+ homes could use our neighborhood streets daily. Construction could be routed through our streets. Heck, every driving Grovetown High School student from Canterbury Farms could realize that there is a shortcut to school and use our streets for that. Canterbury Farms residents could also start using Grenard Street and Tillery Park to access Baker's Place. This could have devastating impact on our community. It's unfair to dismiss our concerns to what this may not be rather than what it could be. We ask that the commission take our concerns to heart when making the decision to approve or deny this proposal. We also ask that should this proposal be approved as is, and should our street be used as a main roadway, that the commission allow us to speak on ways to mitigate risks to our families until Canterbury Farms Parkway is fully constructed. Mr. Lawrence has indicated supporting some of these measures should we get to that point. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak either for or against this particular rezoning that has another issue besides traffic? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and accept a motion to approve with conditions, to disapprove, or to postpone.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve RZ 22-02-02 Part 1 and Part 2 with conditions.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I'd like to point out something. We're not making light of your concerns, and everybody with the county that's involved with this, as well as Mr. Lawrence, will do everything we can to make it reasonable. But in the beginning of the whole overall plan, these stub outs were for a purpose, and that was the reason they put in subdivision. So this is just a part of the overall plan continuing using those stub outs that were put there in the beginning before you even moved there. And I'm not making light of what you're pointing out because I agree with a lot of it, but it's just a part of that. I hadn't heard anybody come up with an alternative for this. So that's it for me.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Motion to approve carries 5-0. Ms. Montgomery, file RZ 220203.
Yes, sir. This is a request for rezoning of several lots off Baker Place Road from RA and PUD, Planned Unit Development, to PUD, 173 acres in total. This is the location of the parcels on the west side of Baker Place Road. Again, currently zoned RA, except for this little tiny sliver, which is currently zoned as part of the Kalari PUD. So this is Kalari to the north, Retreat at Baker Place to the south, both already zoned Planned Unit Development. This is the aerial of the properties. There is one existing house. That house is intended to remain, as we'll see in a moment on the concept plan. And again, since we are looking at a planned development, we are reviewing the concept plan in conjunction with this rezoning request. So this shows you the existing conditions on the property. There are state waters and floodplain and wetlands areas on the property, as well as some fairly steep topography. The site is certainly not flat. And here we can see the cutout that is 10 acres around the existing house that is intended to remain RA and is not intended to be part of the development at this time. There's a photo of the existing site. Those are the houses in Kalari on the right-hand side of the photo there. And the proposal for this property is up to 240 residential units. That includes 24 townhouse units here at the back, as well as a single commercial parcel at the front that is a 3-acre site for a daycare. Since this is a planned development, the only use allowed on that parcel is the one specified in the narrative. In this case, that is specific to the daycare. Again, overall, we are looking at the concept plan as well. There is a single main entrance point on Baker Place Road. We do have some conditions that propose some modifications regarding connectivity on this property. One of those would be to tie into Kalari, roughly in there. There is a stub out in Kalari for that connection to be made. There's also the ability and the interest in providing some type of gap along one of the other property lines into that 10-acre parcel in the event that it is added into that development in the future. The proposed single-family lots in this development range in width from 55 to 80 feet. That gives a minimum lot size range from 6,000 to 8,600 square feet. The larger lots are proposed to have 10-foot side setbacks. They are requesting a reduction in the side setbacks to 7.5 feet for approximately 2/3 of the lots. The justification for this is based on the structured drainage system, which would utilize gutters on the homes and a piped drainage system, as well as the large amount of open space on the property. They are just over 50% with the current plan. These are justifications that have been used in previous PRDs and PUDs to justify reductions in the setbacks, and especially with the request not applying to all of the single-family lots, staff is comfortable with that reduction to 7.5 feet. The applicant has submitted several exhibits with the request. This includes a diagram of the lots that are fronting on green space, as well as the overall amenity plan, which shows the several park areas, as well as the main amenity up front on Baker Place Road. There would be sidewalks throughout the development as required under the PRD, as well as street trees. There are some conditions proposed that would modify parts of this. Traffic engineering has proposed a condition requiring a crosswalk on Baker Place Road. They've indicated the desired location of that would be offset from the entrance, so it may be somewhere in between the daycare and the amenity area. That does open up the possibility of possibly doing some interlot connectivity to give a little more direct access, and then maybe some of the sidewalks here maybe aren't as necessary. So the condition does request that kind of the final pedestrian network be coordinated with engineering. There's also a condition requiring connectivity to the retreat at Baker Place for some pedestrian access. Two possible locations for that would be through this green space area or down the utility easement. Again, that would tie into that proposed crosswalk quite nicely. So those are both options, and there may be others as well. So again, that condition is requested to be coordinated during preliminary plat with engineering and planning. Street trees would be provided throughout the neighborhood as well, and there is a typical street section provided showing the sidewalks and the street trees on both sides of the roads. The project is intended to be developed in 2 phases. There is currently water available to the property. Sewer service is going to require a sewer main extension. Water utility has indicated that is to be the responsibility of the developer. And in terms of future land use, this is also in the neighborhood's character area, which is intended to provide for development of additional single-family neighborhoods. With the update to the future development plan, this area does allow up to 15% of the units in a planned development to be townhouses. With the current plan, this development is proposed at right about 10% townhouses, with the remainder being single-family. So it does fit within the guidelines for this character area. And staff is recommending approval with conditions, a plat delineating the portion of the property to remain RA, that 10 acres around the existing house, must be submitted within 60 days of approval. The internal pedestrian connection to the retreat at Baker Place, the connection point to that 10-acre parcel for future development, pedestrian crossing over Baker Place Road for the crosswalk to the school, and sidewalk improvements, including the connection to the retreat at Baker Place sidewalk on Baker Place Road at the southern property corner. Providing the street and sidewalk connection to Kalari at that Kearsley Street and Radcliffe Drive intersection. That's the existing stub out in Kalari. And then providing left and right turn lanes on Baker Place Road for the out parcel and at the subdivision 1 entrance at the Hero Way intersection. And that concludes staff recommendation.
Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any questions of staff? Is the applicant here? Mr. Lawrence?
Keith Lawrence, 206 Dixon Court, Evans, Georgia, 30809. I wanted to go through some of the slides real quick with you guys and talk about it. I think y'all know this is Pearson Phil Blanchard's property. Pearson still lives on the property. Much of the land was was around both in Kalari and Retreat of Baker Place, came with a group with both those gentlemen were part of on that side. So this is kind of the remaining piece that they've had in here. And I think Pierce has kind of held out, honestly, just to, because he lives there. And, we talk with staff on this. That's why the road, the cul-de-sac here is set up so that it can, if they want, could be extended. Sewer connections are going to be provided for that parcel so that, otherwise, it'll be a 1 lane, 10 acres of standalone in the middle on that side. And so we've worked real close with Pearson Phil and Robert, who owns Pollard, that owns the back piece back here on that side. So, and in establishing the character for this, we've worked to come up with as unique layout as we can. But I really think that the benefit of what we're doing is some of the stuff that's not seen. When we talked about the structured drainage, some of the things we're doing has not been in a narrative before, such as requiring the gutters, requiring them to be piped, tied into a drainage system. With us, on the development side, we're going to approve the pre-landscape grading because we lose a little control with the builders too as well. When we sell the lot, we don't have a way of, leveraging them to make sure we get what we're looking for. And one of the things, and I was talking with Connie Malier about this, that's so important, which is side setbacks is a number. 10 foot, 7.5, whatever it may be, is a number. Really what we're after is trying to solve the issue between the lots, which is drainage. And by doing what we're doing, we're tackling that problem head on. You're talking about probably adding $4,000 to $5,000 in cost to the houses themselves by what we're proposing. But we think it's the way to get the best way to solve the problem. I talked to Kyle and I talked to Katie Beth. Number one call they get in their department of stormwater is in residential lot drainage. So by doing that, I'm a believer in trying to figure out what the problem is and basically solve the problem. And so what we went through was looking at it, trying to figure out, we've done portions of this, but we've never done the whole thing, including basically, we're putting ourselves out there when it comes to drainage because the inspectors are looking for a certain thing, but it doesn't mean that that's going to be the solution. Mac and I dealt with one in Whispering Pines that met the letter of the code, which it had 2% drainage, but the berm on one side was a little low. We were getting water that was jumping, and as soon as we found out about it, we got with the builders and we addressed the problem. But it's one that we can easily see through our experience, but we don't have that particular involvement at that stage. By doing this, we've got it. We're going to make sure that we can get it as right as possible. Does that mean we're going to have no problems? I wouldn't tell you that, but I think it puts us in a position to minimize the problems and tackle one of the stormwater's number one calls that they get, which is lot drainage. And so I think that's a really big part of it that's going through there. Let me flip. Oh,
So Lawrence, while we're on drainage, if I can ask you, let's say, I'm an owner and my drain field gets clogged up, whose responsibility is it to clear it? Is that the homeowners or
the
the,
homeowners. They'll tie to a private system owned by the HOA out front.
so it'd be HOA?
Out front,
But
not-
say that the clog is downline from me and it's not on my property.
Then it'll be the HOA.
Okay.
They'll have to deal with it. And we're gonna put, these are, typically you talk about lot drainage, you talk about 4 and 6 inch type pipes. What we'll have out there is a size pipe by an engineer that will carry the water. And what it's gonna do is, every time there's a storm box, there'll be a private line that comes off. And then when the next storm box, it'll be a new line that comes off. So realistically, what you're talking about is 4 or 5 lots that'll tie to each one of these that'll be. But, even having gutters on your house, what I've seen can really make the problem technically worse with just having gutters, because you concentrate all the flow typically in 2, 3, 4 areas. But, as an engineer, our goal is to get that storm water, to get the surface water into a pipe and off, because what people don't understand oftentimes is that French drains, are put in and they think that they're gonna solve the problem, and Georgia red clay doesn't even give it a chance to soak and reach the French drains. And so the only solution is to catch that storm water on the surface and get it into a pipe system through small little yard catch basins, and then taking the roof drains and tying them directly into a pipe system.
I know we spoke earlier about gutter helmet on the gutters to prevent leaves and other debris
Yep.
from getting down. Is that gonna be in the spec, or?
I don't know if that would be in spec. I don't disagree. I'd have to check on the cost on that, to be honest with you. I think it's a great thing, because I don't have it on mine, and I wish I did. So, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you that I don't believe in it for sure. I'd have to just check on the price, to be honest with you. But I think I really think when we talk about, we talk with staff and a lot, and talk with you guys, and that I think part of the innovative design itself is not necessarily all with what you see. Some of the innovative design can be what's in the ground and how we tackle the problems. I was hoping my buddy Jonathan Williams over that, the landscape architect, would really like this one. But one of the things when I talked with our landscaper, and I said, what can I do to make these houses better on curb appeal? And he said, landscape impact shrub, which is the 15-gallon shrubs that we're going to plant on the opposite side of the driveway in the garage. You get a better impact, because what we typically see is that most of our landscapers builders are going to put in the bare minimum. And by doing this, we're going to get a better streetscape sooner, because you can see most of the houses that are established that are 10, 15 years old, they have something similar to this. And the builders do put it in, but it might be a 5-gallon shrub. So we're going to require them to put a 15-gallon shrub, so you get, again, small little things. And I learned from Tom Robertson a long time ago, people don't notice the details, they notice when they're not done. So we're hoping that you may not pick up on the shrub, but you'll just notice a better feel with some of the minor changes that we're talking about on these. Let me make sure there was nothing else. This is the first time we've done it this way, and I think we'll probably continue, which is the key fact sheet. I hope it helps you guys in looking at the neighborhoods, because it kind of basically pulls out some of the things that we've talked about. Danielle's handled most, which is the way we're going to handle the stormwater. I did want to point out, flip to that, the PDF attached, the narrative excerpt I had in there.
On the PowerPoint, no.
Okay. Y'all probably saw on, I'll flip it and I'll tell you the page. 1 second. Because I think, I've talked about this for a long time, but I really wasn't able to get a good picture of it and really show you guys. On page 12 was a picture that shows the area after it was graded. Then basically 4 years later, it shows what the impact of planting these pine seedlings has. I call it the development scar, which is grading outside the lots. It really makes a big impact, and it's really not an expensive or cumbersome process. I mean, Mac probably puts in 6,000 seedlings a year. We go back and plant them on the slopes, everything outside the lots, but we really see a big impact coming back from those, and that's the continued thing we're going to do in there. I think that not every developer does that, and I do think that that's an impact. That's a 10-year impact. 5 and 10 years down the road, we'll be gone. But I think it's a commitment that just continues to show we want quality development and growth in Columbia County. We want the impacts sometimes are later down the road, but it still ultimately benefits Columbia County on that side. Let me make sure there was nothing else on that one. talked about the multiple price points, the gutters, landscape impact. You know, one of the things we do, and I do challenge you to look at this when you drive out there, is we put rear porches on every one of our houses. I mentioned this before, Danielle questioned me, why was that important? I think it was, and I told her, if you ever go to Baldwin Place off of Columbia Road, go in there, you drive straight, and it kind of winds you back around before you go back into the other neighborhood. You can look to your left and see straight down the backs, without any break, of about 25 houses. I think that small things, again, like these require, and this is required by our builders, they have to have a rear porch on every one of the houses. I'll also tell you another, not knocking it, but if you go off of the neighborhood across from Sage Valley, you can see the backs of those houses, and they don't have stoops or anything covering the back doors of those houses. We think it's, again, buyers may not realize it now, but if you try to come in from the rain without something like that, you're going to realize it then. So it's little tiny small things that we continue to try to do to make sure we have good quality growth in Columbia County.
We go forward about 2 slides. You're right there, just go back 1. I noticed the plantings outside the dark lines. Are y'all gonna develop those too, or is that just
No,
somebody get carried away?
I think Steve got carried away. And actually, I wanted to mention, I'm glad you pointed this out. I forgot to mention this. I did same type of HOA calls, virtual calls with Retreat at Baker Place and Hidden Creek. And I'm thank goodness I mentioned that, because I did tell Retreat at Baker Place, we have 1 lot shown at the end of Retreat at Baker Place. When I told them, and I'm fine with the condition, which is it only can be added if it's acceptable to be added to their HOA, and that they would have approval authority on that house. The whole purpose of putting that lot there was to be able to build the cul-de-sac. Perfectly honest with you, because one of their concerns is that it's currently the temporary gravel turnaround. The buses can't get around there because it's only 40 feet deep. It's 50 feet wide, but it's only 40 feet deep, and they can't really make that turn. I didn't know it at the time, but we just felt like it was a good practice to go ahead. If we weren't going to make the connection, we felt like somebody was looking at it at one point. It should be terminated like it needs to be. And, I think it's fair, and we can make the commitment that even if they don't do the lot, that we'll put the cul-de-sac in, and it'll be part of phase 1, so that it is terminated correctly on that side.
Gentlemen, any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak either for or against this particular rezoning? Yes, sir. Please come forward, give us your name and home address.
Good evening. My name is Sean Bazell. I live at 817 Birch Creek,
And would you spell your last name, please?
Bizzell. And again, I stay at 817 Birch Creek Drive, which is actually a Retreat or Baker Place. If you're looking at the map here, I actually stay exactly right behind the center red area.
You can draw.
And you can draw on that.
Okay. So my house is about right here. I am concerned about the drainage because that area goes downhill. So for all the construction that's going to happen here, for these homes that are back here, there is a county drain that flows from actually my property into that drainage pond there. So we are concerned about drainage coming from the construction. The other thing is that along Baker Place Road here, there is not pedestrian sidewalks. My concern with that is safety for the kids. If you, I would actually challenge the board to go out onto Baker Place Road at about 7:30 in the morning. It is a parking lot. I am trapped in the morning going either direction. So if I go to William Few, it takes me 40 minutes to go 1 mile from my house to the Grovetown High School or Columbia Middle School because of the traffic on William Few and along Baker Place Road. If I go the opposite direction to go to work, because I work on Fort Gordon, the Army Cyber Command, if I go the opposite direction, there's a T intersection with a stop sign, and because of the traffic on Wrightsboro, I'm trapped there, and I can't get out for another 30 minutes. So, if my kids miss the bus in the morning and I have to take them to school and then turn around and either go up to past the Walmart or go back out on Wrightsboro Road, I'm behind at work now 45 minutes just because I'm trying to get through the school traffic. And you say, well, 1 mile from school, why don't the kids walk? Well, because they safely can't go along this route because there aren't any sidewalks taking the kids from Retreat at Baker Place or Hidden Creek neighborhood, which is across the street, to the schools. There was one sidewalk that was put directly across from Kalari to the elementary school. But again, there's nothing that takes the kids safely, especially on that intersection between William Few and Baker Place Road. So I don't feel comfortable or safe for my kids to walk that, whether it's along through the dirt, and the mud, and the high grass, or if they walk close to the street because they're kids, they don't want to mess up their clothes, and cars are flying down that road if they aren't stuck in a parking lot. So that's my biggest concern. And so I'm listening to the developer talk about additional 240 homes, and then we just talked previously about the Tillery Park, additional homes, and there is a huge expansion on Baker Place Road that's going to put more traffic on Riceboro, Baker Place, and William Few. I haven't heard anything tonight about improvement of infrastructure, widening the roads, trying to make it safer for the residents or the children that will be the ones that actually live there.
And honestly, those
so-
conversations will take place in the commission meetings as opposed to this meeting.
Okay,
We merely look at pieces of property and decide whether or not the code applies and whether it fits the parameters of the zoning requests. We're not involved in infrastructure as much as we'd like to be.
okay. I think the biggest concern that I have, and as well as the members of the HOA, because we have a very active HOA, is the traffic on Baker Place Road. Again, for the citizens who live there. And it's not just the morning, it's also the afternoons. Again, starting from 1600 all the way up until about 1800, 1730, the traffic is just atrocious. For the citizens that live there, we're just concerned about more housing, more impact to the local area. Glad to see that the cul-de-sac is going to be completed. Again, my kids have to walk in the rain to the end of the neighborhood because the bus doesn't come to our street because of that cul-de-sac. So that's a positive. However, again, just really concerned moving forward with growth. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak either for or against this particular rezoning, as long as it's not traffic? Yes, sir. Yes, sir, please come forward, give us your name and home address, then Mr. Lawrence will go to you and let you address the drainage.
Apologize.
No worries. Please give us your name and home address.
Stephen A. Armstrong, 535 Mullingar Court, Calera subdivision. And I know you're tired of traffic, but right now, within Calera subdivision, they're building another 200 homes. And I'm wondering, are we taking that into consideration? Because you're making plans for another 200, and we already are beat down with traffic. And I totally understand a horse might be tired of hearing, but I would just ask all of you gentlemen, if you don't live in Grovetown, one morning, y'all get together, a van or something, and come out there and just see what a backlog it is just to travel from your house to Kroger. We're not talking about getting all the way to Fort Gordon. We're not talking about going downtown to work where a lot of people work. We're just talking about going from between 7 o'clock and 8:30, being able to leave your home, go to the grocery store, go to the gym, to go to work, to do anything. It is like being in Atlanta traffic. I think that's why a lot of people are moving to Grovetown, Augusta. We don't want to live in Atlanta. We don't want to take an hour to get home. And even though they're trying to widen the road on Robinson up there by the Kroger, right now, if you come home, it takes you from that light about 30, 45 minutes to get to your house on Baker Place Road. And adding additional homes or additional housing truly does not help the citizens of this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lawrence.
I just want to address the sidewalk question. If putting a sidewalk on our frontage, I can't control it outside our frontage, will help with school children. We don't have a problem committing to putting the sidewalk from property line to property line, and then there's a short connection that you'd have to make to tie it into Baker Place that would be outside of our property lines. But I don't see any problem with that.
And what about the drainage?
The drainage, can you pull that topo map? Yeah. This one, it actually, there'll be 100%, there'll be a swale that takes the water, so there is no chance for that water to get off of them. That'll be one of the first things that'll be constructed. Mac handles all our construction. He can tell you that he takes that stuff very seriously. If there's a problem, it will be out there to address it immediately on that side, but we'll work to make sure that there is not a problem during the design and make sure that there's a swale put in place on that side.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak either for or against this particular rezoning? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and accept a motion to approve with conditions to disapprove or to postpone.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve with conditions, file RZ 220203, rezoning RA and P for properties off Baker Place Road.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Motion to approve carries 5-0. Mr. Butler, file VA 220205.
There's a request for a variance. Our variance is technically the sections 9-53 lists lot structure requirements, 9-144 place of buildings and structures at 408 Old Anderson Road. Currently zoned R2, single-family residential. This is location of the property at Old Anderson and, actually I can't remember what the name of that road is, but anyway, Old Anderson Road. And it's current zone of the property, Sandy Street was what it was. Again, everything around it is zone R2, yes, from C2 to the south. An aerial view of the property, and we'll be talking about these three structures and one that's here that's not on the aerial, and also the fence is here as well. There's a plat of the property. One of the things we'll be talking about is how this house does go over the property line. That has been handled with the plat back in '86 and also with the deed. So some of that's already been taken care of. And one of the buildings is shown on the '86 plat as well. Shows the existing site. Again, this is a building that we haven't seen yet on the aerial in the front of the house on Old Anderson Road. So beginning with the accessory structures, so we're numbering them 1, 2, and 3. We have the original one is number 1, 2 was built second in 2006, around about 2006, and the third one was a recent addition to the property. In terms of the like I already talked about with the house itself, that has been in place for a while and has also been taken care of with the deed, so no real concern there. There is a requirement for an easement encroachment that has already been applied for and will be heard with the variance request. This shows building 1, again, is a little bit over a foot away from the property line. Again, has been there since 1986. So again, it's been there for quite some time. This request, again, did come from a code enforcement complaint about the property with the buildings themselves, some activity on the site, and also some of the vehicles on site as well. This shows building 2, again, a little bit over 3 feet off the property line. Again, as zoned R2, it does have a 10-foot setback, so both these buildings are well within that. Actually, the first one could be at 5 feet due to the size, less than 400 square feet. Building 2 is over that, it's about 720, give or take. And again, the fence, on a corner lot, you're allowed a fence that is to be about 4 feet high, but it cannot be chain link. So again, what we're dealing with here is a chain link being allowed to remain in place. Overall, again, a lot of these things have been in place for a while. Haven't really been an issue until recently. The fence itself, again, doesn't really cause a problem. However, we do have several conditions with it. Again, the revised setback will only apply to the 2 existing accessory buildings and the porch addition to the house. Any additional construction must comply with R2 setbacks. If the existing fence is replaced, it must meet county code. And also, temporary accessory building shall be removed within 180 days of action by the Board of Commissioners on the request of variance. And lastly, easement encroachment agreement is required for the structures that in-house is within the 5-foot drainage utility easement. That's already been applied for. That includes staff recommendation.
Gentlemen, any questions of code or questions of staff? I do have one question about the code. Existing fences replaced. What does that mean? If it's, let's say if somebody runs off the road and damages a portion of it, over 50%, or
If we want to use the non-conforming, then I think it's 70%, 75 or something. I can't remember.
okay. I just wondered what the threshold was there.
To me, it's you had to replace it, you're replacing the whole We can discuss that if it happens.
All right, gentlemen, any questions? Is the applicant here? Yes, sir, would you like to come forward and give us any additional information? Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak either for or against this particular variance? Yes, ma'am, please come forward and give us your name and home address.
Hi, my name is Susanna Sinclair. I made the initial complaint about the one building. I have no issue with the fence or the building that's been there since 1986. It's the one building,
You can touch the finger and you can mark on it.
that building. That building. I sent in a letter listing all of my objections to this variance, but also I brought it printed out if anyone wants to see that along with photos. What I didn't say in the letter is that this building is only about 12 and a half feet away from my house, including the roof overhang. There's already been a fire in that building last year. That's what made me look into all of this and learn about setbacks and codes and all of that. And I'm just really worried with it sitting there and things that are stored in there and how it's used. It's really close to my house. And I'm nervous about it. I don't like it there. Again, I don't have a problem with the building that's been there since 1986. It's not close to my house. I don't have a problem with the fence. It's this one building. And I sent in a lot of photos showing how it's used. And, you know, the fire department did come out, so there's a fire report. So I just wanted to make that clear, how close it is to my house.
Is that a portable building? Is that the one that's on skids?
Yeah, it's a metal building.
So it could be moved.
The number 2 building is is the metal carport, which is what you see kind of there in the bottom photos. It would appear that it is movable, I guess. And I'm not sure the status of the, on building 1 in the corner, is that permanently attached, or maybe the applicant can answer that question? So that's probably not movable. Yeah.
Well, the building didn't start like that. It didn't have the concrete at first. That came along later. It was just used as storage for random items. It could have been moved before the concrete was laid. And, you know, since there was a fire back there, it just makes me very nervous. And the way things are still stored there, it's very close to my home, about 12 and a half feet away from my house.
I didn't get to see the uses.
I have photos. And
Well, I'm just curious what the uses are that are giving you concern.
there are a lot of
Besides
grills.
a fire.
A lot of grills, a lot of propane tanks, lawnmowers. And what prompted me to make the complaint is a lot of propane tanks just kind of thrown together, just tipped over, sitting together. And this is after the fire, so, you know, it's just very scary.
Right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Is there, yes, sir, please come forward and give us your name and home address.
Ashley Jenkins, 408 Old Anderson Road. And to address our fire problem, I'll get it. I was cooking some French fries, and I accidentally walked away from it, and it caught on fire. Oh, you know, I did call the fire department, and there was propane tanks sitting right beside it. So those propane tanks were actually set out. Once you was talking about laying down, were the ones that were in the fire after the fire. I wanted to get rid of them disposed of, so I set them there until I could find somewhere to take them, which I wound up taking them to Dixie, and they accepted them. I really didn't know what to do with fire with propane tanks after they had heat on them. I know I didn't need to throw them in the trash or didn't know what to do with them, so I had to contact someone to find out what exactly I needed.
So there are no propane tanks there now other than the ones you're using?
Other than the ones using. Those were actually there. None are actually connected to anything anymore. Since I had the fire, I make sure when I shut everything off, I disconnect the tanks completely. So that is completely not gonna happen.
Can you clean that area up at all to benefit her?
Yes, I mean, the only thing under there is, like I say, my lawnmower, which as soon as the other building, which the one that's got 180 days to be removed, that actually goes to my place out in Burke County, going back to my place in Burke County, and my lawnmowers will go down there. I don't even cut my own grass. Those I used at my place in Burke County to cut the grass there. So right now I'm having to transfer them back and forth.
So
I don't have anywhere to store them and lock them.
So you intend to clean it up?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Would you come forward so we can hear you, please?
He's cleaned up his yard a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but this is not something I want to have to continue to monitor. I don't want to have to look back there every day and see what's being stored a few feet away from my house. And that's something I will have to continue to do if that building is allowed to stay so close to my house. I don't want to monitor it anymore. I can't even go out of town without worrying about what might be put back there. You can say, I cleaned it up today, but what about a month from now?
I don't know that we have the authority, so to speak, to make him move the building. I can't answer that question for you.
Okay.
But can anybody else?
Be something the county commissioners would have to do, and they'd have to go to magistrate court, and the magistrate court would have to rule in favor of the county to make him move the building.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. It's not as simple as us saying you got to move it.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, with that being said, I'm going to close the public hearing, accept a motion to approve the variance, to disapprove the variance, or to postpone the variance, and the approval would be subject to the attached conditions.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve with conditions file VA 22-0205 variances to reduce the building setbacks, allow a chain link fence to remain at 408 Old Anderson Road.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 3-2. Being said, we have no legal matters. Do we have any staff or commissioner comments? Yes, sir. No?
None.
Any public comments? Seeing none, I will accept a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Motion to adjourn at 7:07 PM. Next meeting is March 3rd, 2022 at 6 PM.